is how to rope up a window, including balancing the weights, including tying on. If you simply follow those simple instructions, it's super simple. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rope this up in the traditional way. What I've already done is I've tied a clove hitch on there. Yeah, we'll start from the beginning. That's the sash cord, 6mm sash cord. That's the mouse. Basically it's a bit of cord with a little bit of lead on the end. Yeah. So to make a clove hitch, very simple. Make one loop, make two loops, and you pass the rope through the loop. That gives you then what is in scout terms is called a clove hitch. Now, being an old scout, I knew that. Now you take the mouse, you thread it through there, let it drop down to the bottom, pull the mouse out, push that through there, and draw it down. Then you go up on this side, it goes in there, he said, full of hope. That's it. Comes down, there's the mouse coming out again. Pull it up. When you meet resistance, make sure that you get the rope through the hole, give it a little tug, and it comes through. Then you take the mouse again. Yeah, it goes in this one. So we've started top left, inside left, inside right, up to the outside right, which is there. That comes down. Yeah, pull that through. The mouse comes down on that side. We pull it out. That goes in there. Hold just exactly where you didn't want it. There is always something goes wrong on every job. It may be very minor, but there's always something that didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to. That's it, that drops over there. We pull that down, reach in, there's the cord. It's running away from me. That's it, put it out. Now, so now that is done. It means that you've used the minimum amount of rope in order to get it the sash roped up. You tie the mouse back up, and that is the job done. Now what we've got to do is we've got to put the weights in. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how we weight up and how we balance. It's a set of scales, and the reason you've got the scales is because the windows have to balance. Now, some people use a fisherman's weight, a fisherman's balance, but I found that this is very practical because it helps me keep an eye on my own weight as well. So, doing Yeah. So the first thing we've got to do is weigh it. And the weight of that is round about 5. Yeah. It's the unit of measurement. The unit of measurement is pretty irrelevant. In actual fact, it's totally irrelevant. As long as you always use the same unit of measurement. So we roll the leads. I've got a video on that so you can watch how that's done. Then we take the weights. Now if you remember, when I was doing the weights, I tied off the rope. We left a little bit longer so that we knew that that was the top sash weight. So we put 2 of those on. Some of them have got the weights marked on, but balancing that, I can see, if you look down there, you can see where what the weight is. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sash back on again so you can see what the difference is. So if we take that mark there, that gives us where we want to go. And if we put that on there, we can see that the weights balance, but that's not good enough. What we've got to do is we've got to have the weights on the top sash very slightly heavier than on the than the weight of the window, so that the sash has a tendency to move up to closed position. So we take a bit of lead, and this is eyeballing. And you take the weight again, put those on there, and you can see that that's much closer to the 1. You need about 1/4 to 1/2 pound of butter difference. Yeah, so that is now perfect for the top sash. While we're here, we might as well cut the bottom sash. I feel like a cook. Yeah. That again is, if you look on here, is well away from the 1. So what we do is we weigh the bottom sash. Now the weights have to be very slightly less than the weight of the sash, so that the sash has a tendency to fall shut. That. Now these have been refitted with, take that with me. These have been refitted, reglazed and readjusted, so these weights are significantly lighter than the window, which would mean that the window would plummet down, or the sash would plummet down. So once again, we take a bit of lead, and that should be just about right. Now we'll go and see if what I said is true. Okay, can you take the sashes in, please? Right, let's go and film the weighting process. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the top sash in, just like a little bit more rope. So first of all, the make weight goes on. Then we tie on the weight. Now, because the hole's in the top, we can simply use a simple, if I remember rightly, blood knot. Let's go back a bit. It makes a nice big chunky knot. I like to tuck those bits together so that it all fits in there. And the reason for that is if it's not chunky enough, it will pull on some weights, the rope will simply pull out. If you do it like that, the weight doesn't pull out. Now we take that to the top and we simply clamp it. So that's as high up as you want it. Yeah. And then take it down to about halfway down there's the pocket, so about roughly halfway down. Yeah, or a little bit more. That's one side. Thread the weight on. Again, same thing. Use the knot. I use a bowline when the weights are a different shape, or the eye of the weight is a different shape. You might as well do that. Yeah, that goes on there. That goes in there. And always make sure that the knot is inside, so that there's no hangy bits that can snag on the... And it's done that again. Would you believe that? That little knot there. That's it. Somebody drilled a hole many years ago and screwed up the situation. Right, that's that one. Cut that off. Round about halfway down. Yeah, the bottom sash will come to about there. The top sash will come to about there. So you need enough rope to be able to tie it onto the sash, or screw it onto the sash. So round about halfway down. Yeah, that's that. Now we do the other one. Stop. Again, same thing. Thread on the make weight. Yeah. Get one of the weights. Generally, I balance them in there like that, but that's just a personal preference. Take that down, tie it off. Put that back up there. That's that one done. Down to about halfway, round about halfway down the pocket. Cut that off. If you do it this way, you'll use the minimum amount of sash cord. Now I buy the sash cord in at about 100 meters a time per roll, and so over the span of a roll, it's a significant difference in how much wastage there is, how much less wastage there is. There we are. That goes in there. Again, all the way to the top. Round about halfway down. That's it. Now, as you can see, we're getting towards the end of that rope, or cord, you can call it what you like, as long as you know what you're talking about. There we are, that goes in there, and that goes in there. Oh, it doesn't want to. Right, so we'll just wrap that down. That's over to one side. Now we put the weight pockets back in. The weight pocket covers, actually, if we're being pedantic. That's on one side, and that's on the other side. Now comes the acid test. Now we have the sash. The sash. Always remember to put the putties to the outside. It reminds you what's inside and what's outside. Keep, especially on the top sash, this has to fit in that slot there, but you need to keep it on short windows, you need to keep it as tight as possible. There we are, we can put a screw in there. That's on one side, and we turn it around, do the self same thing again on this side. Then cut off the excess, that slots in there. That slots in there. And now we put the top sash in place. Release the one side, release the other side, and it should just, that's what you want, because by the time you have the resistance of the paint and all the other bits, that is a lovely fit. Now what we have to do is we have to put the parting bead in. And so what we use is we use Mighton parting bead. Stop. This is two things at once. It's incredibly soft and incredibly hard. Yeah, so that it lasts for a long time. And as you can see, these fins are very, very flexible, much more flexible than on others. Yeah, and if they get paint on them, you can simply wipe it off and it doesn't destroy the value of the draft stripping. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut these into position. So what we do is we put that up to the head. You can go around measuring if you want to. But what I've found is that if you measure, you'll get things wrong. So simply make a mark, stop. So now we have to make sure that this fits. That goes all the way to the top, that goes all the way to the bottom, right? And all we have to do is hammer it in. And instantly we have a draft sealed window from the parting beads made. Pull that down. And that is a sliding window. Have we got any silicone spray there?
No, there's some in the van.
Oh, right, that's brilliant. Yeah, and again, this time we can leave it a little bit slacker, yeah, because the bottom sash is not quite so critical as the top sash, especially on small windows. On big windows it doesn't really make a lot of difference. But I'll explain that all another time. That goes on there. Now we use stainless steel screws, and the reason we use stainless steel screws is because anything that's near the exterior will rust. But if you use stainless steel screws, they don't rust as fast. So these will last much longer. So we take the sash cord off, not the clamps off. Now, as you can see, the window, as you can see, it's easy to operate with just one finger. This is the top sash. Very, very simple. And now the trade secret. A little squirt makes the window slide absolutely perfectly. And that's all it needs. Get yourself a can of that. I get this from Tool Station. Silicone lubricant, and it means that the windows slide beautifully. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off the draft stripping. So what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that any drafts coming in here don't get into the house, and the way we do that is that we add a small piece of timber, yeah, and we cut that in there so that that forms a continuous draft strip all the way across. So we turn it over. I'm using a marker pen so you can see what we're doing. That goes into that corner. We simply make a tick on that side, and what you do is you take that off because that's all rubbish. Yeah, and if you leave the line on, it'll be a nice tight fit. So you put that in there, and as you can see, that's about as close to a perfect fit as you're ever going to get. So we drop the window down. That's it. That's got to be a reasonably tight fit, but it mustn't be too tight. So temporarily we're going to fix that in position. We'll come back to that in a moment. And as you can see, that strip there runs from there to there, which effectively blocks off all of the drafts. And that's what it looks like from the inside. Brilliant. Okay. Is put on the bottom staff bead. As you can see, these have been already cut to length. We've got from Maiden again, the SWS strip in there. So in order to get the correct measurement, again, put that against the one style. Now when it's cut, we leave that line on. That's all rubbish, and that ensures a near perfect fit. Again, you want this a relatively tight fit. So there is a double draft proofing there. That's it. Okay, stop. So beforehand we could see that we nailed this in temporarily to make sure it was a reasonably good fit. Now that we know that it all fits and slides, that sound you hear, by the way, is a draft stripping. That sound is draft stripping kicking in. Yeah, so we've done that now. What we do is, for added reinforcement, we screw that down. It used to be done with cut nails before the advent of electric screwdrivers. That is now as solid as a rock. That goes on there. Now we take the nail gun and simply fire that in. So having got that in place, now we have to put the head in. So we take the window down slightly. You can see I'm getting old. So again, take the staff bead. Yeah, put the corner onto the right hand style or the left, whichever way you want to go. Take your pencil and mark the back of the staff bead. So you now know that if you leave that line on just barely, that is going to be a perfect fit. So there we have it. That fits in absolutely beautifully. Now what I like to do is just fire one pin in there to make sure that that's properly level. Then that's all fired in. Now we have to put in the vertical parting beads, staff beads, sorry. Right, that's the vertical staff bead for the right hand side. So we put that right up into the corner there. Draw this out to about 5 to 6 inches. Yeah, and on this line here, not this line, on this line here, just make a mark. So that goes in there. It's been cut to length. So because it's a relatively short run, these can be a little bit awkward to get in. But what you do is you pretend that you're at Agincourt and you flex your bow, and that gives a slight bow on it. But what happens is that when you press that in, it makes sure that it's a tight fit top and bottom. That's the one side, and we'll do the other side. That goes up there, goes down there. Take it to about 5 or 6 inches away, 5 inches on a short window. Yeah, make the mark. So press that right up into the top. You have to try and get it so that it's all level at the top, or all even. Again, your Agincourt, no. So we put that in at the bottom. The smaller ones are far more problematic than the big ones. No, that's a little bit too, right. We've got the staff beads in. And we need a slight pressure on the sash. And don't nail too close to the corner. Try to keep them around about 10 centimeters away from the edge, so that they're easier to take out at some future time. And there will be a future time. Right, so we do that again. Now if you look down there, you'll see that has formed a perfect seal on the sash. As it slides up, it runs between 2 fins. There's that fin there and that fin there, so that it slides with consummate ease, which is what you want it to have.